In three, two, and one. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek Show, a soccer podcast covering all things in the EPL from a bench perspective. I'm your host, Ben, and I'm joined by my co-host Rex. And Rex, good to see you as always.
Good to be back, man. Good European football so far.
Yeah, we've got two finals down. We still got one to go, and that's what this show is mostly going to be about. We're gonna recap what happened, I guess, yesterday, just quickly, and go over a little bit what happened with the FA final, and then maybe try to fit in a little mini Champions League preview. We'll see if we can get that in. And you mentioned we're kind of short for time, so we're just kind of get started with it. So we won't really do a story of the week. We'll just kind of run down what happened yesterday, and kind of there's been a lot of news that is broken. So we'll try to hit on that as well. So, I mean, mostly just yesterday, West Ham do end up getting their trophy. They took this competition more seriously than I think they should have. They were playing their
Mhm.
starters and risking a whole lot when their safety in the league wasn't really certain. And there could have been a risk of injury to Rice or even Bowen. Might have actually sent them down. But the other side of that is they ended up finding a rhythm and in a way that they hadn't had the entire season. We really saw Bowen kind of light up, and it's kind of fitting that Bowen ends up kind of winning it for them in the end yesterday with a great goal at the very end. It looked like it was going to go to extra time, and Bowen was able to with a really nice through ball by Paqueta. And it's fitting that Paqueta is
Mhm.
also plays a big role because he was a really big signing for them as well. It didn't show up in the beginning of the season or even in midway through. But Paqueta started to kind of show up finally towards the end. So good for West Ham and good for David Moyes.
Yeah, and he did well. There was some speculation about whether he'd be, the manager next year, and I mean, it's just gonna make it harder to sack him, I would believe. And now they're gonna be in Europa League, not the Conference League, Europa League. So maybe he's the guy to take him forward because I guess he kind of knows at least he's a little bit more experienced about how to deal with European competition and the Premier League. Obviously, he's got to get some reinforcements because it's going to be hard again. I mean, you talked about how they suffered in the Premier League, because they were playing this competition as well and they took it seriously. And I think some people got tired and some people didn't perform like we're used to seeing them perform in the Premier League. But all that matters is that at the end of the day, they get a trophy, they get a cup. It's a huge cup. It's still one more trophy that Kane won't get. They have one more trophy than Kane does.
That is rough. I did see a lot of that online yesterday, where people were kind of having a little fun at Spurs fans. So West Ham was able to get a trophy before them, and maybe
Mhm.
another way, Kane may be jealous of Rice because Rice gets to maybe do what Kane's wanted to do. Because we feel like that's probably the last game that Rice will have, and he gets to go out
Yeah.
lifting a trophy for them. Um, I mean, just
Yeah.
the crazy thing is just the way that he sets up, and it's almost perfect for kind of this kind of tournament kind of football. And it's kind of weird how West Ham and Fiorentina were the two most scoring teams, in the Conference League the entire like tournament. But West Ham set up with only Antonio to basically be their lead striker, and just they put a lot of people behind the ball, and they play without the ball a lot. I mean, Fiorentina was suffocating them with possession, but well,
Yeah.
they're well compacted, well drilled defensively, and this stuff works for tournament football sometimes. So, and
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll
Yeah,
see.
the numbers were terrible for them, but they got the cup. That's all that matters.
And there was a cup in Germany as well. RB Leipzig goes on to beat Frankfurt 2-0 with Nkunku gets the first goal. It's kind of the deflection that goes in, and then Schloboschlei gets the second one, also created by Nkunku. And it's kind of funny because Leipzig kind of started the season losing, I think, 5-0 to Bayern in one of those Super Cup kind of beginning of the seasons things in Germany. And Leipzig does Leipzig also got embarrassed a little bit by Man City. But they went on and they hired Marco Rosa, and they've done well to kind of rebound, and pretty good for them to win a trophy as well.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. It's more parity in the Bundesliga than we're used to seeing, which is great. We barely had Bayern win, and then the Dutch Pokal is not Bayern either. So yeah, it's fun to see. Maybe that league's getting a little bit more competitive. Well,
Or
we'll see what happens this summer,
or
but
maybe maybe not. I could maybe spoil your fun, Rex, because it sounds like Conrad Leimer is going to leave to join Bayern on a free, and it looks like Gardemera, one of the Dortmund right backs. is set to leave Dortmund to join Bayern on a free as well. It just seems everyone likes joining Bayern on a free, and they get to sign him without doing transfer fees. Um, but but
Yeah, so that's why they don't want Cancelo back, I guess,
so the
if they got
Bayern
that guy coming in.
the Bayern Liga, I guess. I think I'm not that's not on me. That I cribbed that from someone on Twitter, so
Oh,
I'll credit them.
yeah.
But I was like, that's pretty good. Um, and maybe the last thing to kind of touch on is Spurs look like they finally found their guy. I can't really say his name. Is it Ogne? Ogne? Ange?
Mhm.
Ange.
Uh,
Um,
Ange
Ange.
Postecoglou is the
That's
best
good.
I can do, yeah.
That's much better than me. And Jeremy showed me a kind of a video of him when he was like with the Australian like youth team, and he's fiery. And when he was with Celtic, I thought they played pretty good football.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this job works. Uh, I I kind of like it how they
Yeah.
haven't necessarily just gone out. If you can't get like the super splashy name, you need to think of what to do. Maybe if you lose Kane anyways, maybe this isn't going to impress Kane, but it's at least to me outside the box kind of hire. They haven't just gone to hire a Nuno Espirito again, like they did a couple years ago. So we'll
Yeah,
see
we'll see.
how this works.
He won 5 out of 6 cups available for Celtic to win in the 2 years that he was there. So that's pretty good, but the competition was a little down. Like Rangers weren't quite as good as they've been the last couple years,
Mhm.
and then the rest of the league isn't that tough. So we'll see. I think he did do really well with Celtic, but I think the competition, it was a bit of a down couple years.
Well, I
We're
know
used to
that
seeing like Rangers beat and Celtic battle it out, and Celtic just kind of cruised this year.
and Rangers and Celtic both did not have the best group stage. I don't know if either of them won a single
No,
game. So
I don't know.
there's
Yeah,
worth.
Celtic might have won the last day, maybe.
Mhm.
I can't remember, but yeah, I don't think they won. If they
And
did, it was like a meaningless game
who
at the
they're
end.
targeting is interesting because I've seen it's nothing but Leicester players. It's like Barnes, it's Madison. We figured Madison would probably get a look. And then I saw like Harry Maguire's name is being mentioned a lot, and if maybe with with Conte or who they had before, but this Pod Chicano guy apparently plays a high line, and him with Harry Maguire, I don't think that would work at all. But we'll see
Yeah,
if we'll see what they end up doing. And maybe the last thing to touch on is looks like the Saudi clubs are finally making news again. They tried to go after Messi, maybe they didn't land him, but it looks like they've landed Palace Zaha, and N'Golo Kante. I think I've seen Riyad Mahrez is maybe going to be set to join after the Champions League final, and the big one is Benzema. And Ronaldo's already up there as well, and they made news with golf. With they've done the Live Tour, and apparently and then PGA Tour is about to merge. But the
mhm,
Saudi clubs are the Saudi money is here, whether we like it or not, and it's this feels different than when China's tried to like sign a bunch of players and tried to do their like super league, couple 8 years ago. Offering a ton of money. This feels a little more like they have a little bit more vision to it. So we'll see if this continues, latching on. I mean, the sums that they're offering
yeah,
though is wild, and that is if player looks at the sum of money, clubs aren't really going to be able to compete. So the Premier League has
no,
enjoyed being able to just pick whoever they wanted because they've been king on the hill. These Saudi clubs are able to overtake them. So
yeah. Yeah, I read this thing today. I think it was on the Mirror, so I don't really know if I believe it, but it was about Arsenal, and it was basically saying that some of these Saudi clubs want some of Arsenal's big players. Arsenal cannot compete monetarily with what the Saudi clubs are offering them in wages. I mean, it's insane. So yeah, like I mean, if Odegaard wanted to make a bunch of money, Arsenal could not pay what some of these Saudi clubs are paying. They just couldn't, and this is a big Premier League club. They can't pay.
yeah.
So yeah, this does have more staying power, and it has more money than China did too. So yeah, they're gonna draw some talent. I'm just glad they didn't get Messi.
Well, right. It looks like we maybe got him with the news given today. Maybe Inter Miami, and there was kind of talks about that a little bit. After the World Cup, that maybe this would
Mhm.
kind of be the time to go. But to be honest, he had a really good season to end with PSG. Now people maybe forgot what they ended up doing playing after the Champions League kind of busted up. But Messi, I think, even made the French League 11. towards the end. He had a really good season for them.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Towards the late. So he still has game in his legs. This isn't going to be a retirement tour, and so we're going to
Yeah.
get a Messi that has legs that can still play. And the thing that went to my mind is he immediately becomes like the ambassador for a World Cup, probably, like kind of
Mm.
like the face of it
Yeah.
almost.
Wow.
'Cause
Yeah, I
he's
didn't
gonna
even think about
he's
that.
gonna be here for 2 years, and then we host the World Cup, whether he's with Argentina or not. He'll be our lead promoter, you would imagine, because I feel like, uh,
Yeah.
we kinda did something similar when Beckham, came here, so this is bigger than Beckham coming here. Obviously, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
Messi's probably gonna win the Ballon d'Or, and he's gonna be I don't know if the MLS has ever had an existing Ballon d'Or, and I would imagine no. So
No, yeah, there's no way, right? Yeah, I don't think yeah, yeah, I don't think so.
and,
It's
uh
crazy.
And the Messi news is great for us, but it's not the most important news, I think, for Argentina, or at least, in my opinion, because it looks like Liverpool have signed McAllister, or also Argentinian, and it looks like he's decided to have the number 10. Mac 10 is maybe his name, and so Liverpool have finally signed their midfielder. They've been looking for that forever, and yeah, I'm a little bit in a pretty good mood, Rex, if you haven't noticed, and they finally announced it today. It is official. And I
Yeah,
don't necessarily
good
know what the
signing.
fee is, but it sounds like the fee is low. So they have that
Yeah.
cheap Bellingham money, and looks like they've decided to kind of splash around on a few players, not just one. Looks like Bellingham actually is going to Madrid.
Mhm.
It's worth saying
Yeah,
that as
yeah, yeah.
well. So a lot of
Yeah, but we've been talking about it, though, and you and I both agreed that, you know, for Liverpool to be better, they would, you know, instead of just buying Bellingham for all that money, spread it out, and
I'm glad.
they're
Yeah,
doing it, and it's engine room guys, it's midfield guys, so yeah, it's good. It's a good start, and, I mean, the transfer window hasn't even opened yet, and they got a good target already, so it's a great start. I love it when clubs get started really early too. It helps.
because you get a full preseason.
McAllister will be there from yeah, from training day 1, he'll be there, so
Yeah.
it's great. He'll get to know the players better without even playing games, so yeah, it's perfect to get it done early.
And then, so we'll quickly move on to the FA final, and it is Man City do go on to beat Man United at 2-1. It did not feel like this was going to be a 2-1 kind of game because within 15 seconds, Man United were down with a spectacular goal by Gunnigan. People were going at, why doesn't Eriksen maybe running a little bit better? I mean, I have in my notes. Maybe I should kind of go after him a little bit about that. They ask, wondering why they saved and make a save. I think everyone is just kind of starstruck that Gunnigan even tried this. It is ambitious as hell, and the hit this is worthy of a final. This was a beautiful goal,
Mhm.
and the only thing is it happened in 15 seconds, so it was hard to kind of we were almost more stunned than we could enjoy. We were so stunned we couldn't really enjoy it. I think, but yeah,
Yeah, it was literally from the kickoff, they passed back to Ederson. Ederson played it out, and it was like a flick on header. It was crazy. Yeah, it was a good way to start the game because it definitely forced United to have to come out and go for it.
yeah,
Because
they
they
were
can't
planning
just
on
sit
sitting
back.
back. Yeah,
Yeah, and they
that
can.
went out the door.
15 seconds in, game plan's ruined.
And then Bruno got one back with a PK. Well, we'll maybe get to that. I didn't really think that was the right call. I guess according to the law, I guess that the refs had to do it. We'll maybe get into that a little bit as well. The law probably needs to be changed. There was a PK awarded in the West Ham game that was kind of shady a little bit as well.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Gunnigan was able to make amends, or no, I shouldn't say that. Maybe to able to tack on to what he did, giving City the
Mhm.
lead again. Another goal that happened early in a half. Yeah, I think it was in the 50th minute, and it's another case of United not really marking him. Then again, it's such an ambitious hit. Maybe you just don't really expect it. Though Gunnigan is top of the box. You probably
Yeah.
should mark this because it is just a free kick, and Kevin De Bruyne just specifically picks him out. There's still
Mhm.
Gunnigan has a lot to do, and he kind of mishits this. I think he shins it. But De Gea sees it late. Maybe he thought that Varane was there, and it was going to deflect off Varane. But besides, this is what you could maybe go at De Gea a little bit for, in my opinion. He could maybe
Yeah.
do better,
Yeah, definitely.
better on this one. But it's
Yeah,
still a
I think
fantastic.
so.
I don't want to take away from what Gunnigan did. It's still a fantastic hit, and yeah, two goals for City's man. No Holland, no Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne did have two assists, but it's the Gunnigan show, and yeah, that's kind of fitting. I feel like because he's low key been. I don't want to necessarily say a player of their season. Obviously, you're going to say Holland, but Gunnigan has
Mm.
been their lone sun hero in many respects. We've spoken about him, nonstop on here. So it was awesome to see him kind of get his due, and it sounds like he could maybe go for free. So
Mhm.
that could be maybe like the best free you could bring in to your club if you're able to sign him because
Absolutely.
he's only 30ish, 30 maybe 31. He still has legs in his game and lots of game.
Yeah, and he's Premier League experienced, and he's a clutch player. He steps up when it matters most for City, and he did it last year too when De Bruyne was missing some time. And yeah, it's great to see because he is kind of in that squad. He's a little underrated, but yeah, he's starting to get his due because he's just been on fire, and some of the goals he scored have been amazing recently. So yeah, we're glad that he's starting to get noticed a little bit more because he is a really special player.
And so, I mean, real quickly, what were your general takes, of the game? I mean, I kind of went into it personally, not really caring about it, to be honest, and I'm not really a Manchester fan, or like not affiliated with other clubs. I don't really like either, to be honest, as a Liverpool
Mhm.
fan. But I didn't really kind of take it into like from a Manchester perspective. So I had just kind of discounted what it maybe meant for them. So like Man United's crown jewel, I kind of want to get this thought out there and see if you agree. Man United's crown jewel is like their '99 team that won the treble. And it's
Mhm.
like you anytime you if you talk to like an English Man United supporter that that's been a supporter for I don't know 20 years or whatever, they'll talk up that '99 team. And City has a chance to equal that treble. I think it's the only team that's ever done a treble. That's the reason why.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
this is their crown
it's
jewel.
insane.
Man United had a chance to be the team to stop them. So that's what Man United supporters had, and with City, it's a chance to just hit back. It seems like that town is still quote unquote Manchester red, and it's just another example of nope, not really. And even though it was 2-1, there was really only one team that was going to win this, and I think it was another cruel
Mhm.
reminder that even Man United have had a lot of success this season, but they're still really far away.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, a lot of teams have gone up against City. Arsenal's one of them too. Where at the end of the day, you're just like, there's just a class difference, and there's nothing you can do about it until you start bringing in some pieces and the transfer windows, and it might take more than just one window too. Because City's just top to bottom, they're better than everyone else. So they kind of do this to a lot of teams that think they're kind of close to competing with City, and then they go up against them and they're like, "Oh no, we still need, some better bench players, maybe a quality player in the midfield as well just to even kind of keep up with them." They're that good.
And this game really was a perfect example of Pep is responsible for a lot of things, how he sets his team up. But the main reason for City's success is having like three of the best midfielders in a generation, and like Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, and Gunnigan. And obviously, Bernardo
Yeah.
Silva has had his due in some of these games as well. And it's just individual brilliance by Gunnigan. This wasn't necessarily a City masterclass. I actually thought United set up well and played an okay game. It was just they set up to not get destroyed. They didn't necessarily set up to win. Um,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and
Which is, I mean, that's kind of smart when you're
yeah,
going up against a juggernaut. But yeah, like we said, the game plan is immediately thrown out when you give up a goal inside the first 15 seconds.
And another thing to touch on is Holland has a bit of a history with both of these clubs. Ali Gullo Solskjaer, before he was managing them, he was he had a voice inside the club, and apparently he told United to look at Holland when he was at Molde, and United had a chance to sign him before he went to Dortmund. I remember that being a big thing, just because
That would have been.
Our buddy Alex was talking up Holland even before he went to Dortmund. And,
Mhm.
who knows what could have happened, since, before that. He went to Dortmund because I think
Yeah.
he knew he was gonna get more playing time. I forget who
Yeah.
United had at that point, but yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, it's kind of like the Arsenal story where they almost got Ronaldo before he went to United, and then obviously United went one way and Arsenal went the other, and it's kind of like, well, it's interesting to think about what would happen if yeah, Holland joined United, or if Ronaldo had spurned United and joined Arsenal, things would be completely different
mhm.
for at least 5 years, you would think. So yeah, it's crazy that you know how things happen.
And so, I mentioned how it's possible, like, yeah, it felt like uh, Eric Ten Hag set up Man United to not necessarily get destroyed, but not necessarily win. And what I mean by that is the selection he picked was a little strange. So he had Bruno on the right wing, Sancho on the left wing, and then Rashford through the middle with like Ericsson kind of underneath as kind of like the 10. So you didn't really play
Mhm.
Bruno in his best position, and I thought Bruno basically kind of left that spot and really did kind of play as a 10, kind of with Eriksen. But I thought Eriksen struggled to get into the game, to be honest. And like, if
Mm.
you were going to set up to be ugly, this might have actually been. I usually wouldn't. This is I can say this in hindsight, but if I had seen this, to be fair, if I had seen this lineup in what I'm about to say pregame, I probably would have treated off some thoughts as well. But if you're going to make it ugly, this might have been the game to actually try Casemiro over Adam McTominay, because I feel
Mm.
like that first goal maybe doesn't happen if McTominay's playing. Just because
Mm.
it just happens because United losing a couple duels in the air and then kind of not being able. Chris Eriksen doesn't mark again. Then again, 15 seconds in, it is what it is. But I think
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
also
who
kind of
knows?
weird. You maybe could have tried to bring Wanghorst on a little earlier because when Wanghorst and McTominay came on, we did see City kind of struggle a little bit towards the final 8 minutes or so. They lost a couple duels in the air, and Man United actually ended up getting something to go off the post. And we saw Brentford
Yeah,
kind of have some success beating City a little bit in the air. So
yeah, true.
you just can do this, in hindsight, as fair. I think when people saw the starting lineup selected, I don't think there were many complaints. So that's maybe harsh.
Yeah. Well, it's something maybe that, Inter can look at too, because they have Dzeko and Lukaku who are good in the air,
I
so
think so. Yeah.
maybe that's something that Inter might be looking at the tape and being like, "We can exploit that maybe."
Well, another thing you can maybe exploit is, when you look at City, I thought maybe the big issue that they had was, when because United weren't really pressing them. What they were doing is they actually played in almost like a line, so it was almost like a narrow front four. So this is like Ten Hag actually did, I thought, a pretty decent job on this. So he didn't really care when Walker, Diaz, or Kanji had the ball. And even though you're losing a goal, this is why they didn't lose the game in the first half. It looked like they were going to get blitzed maybe, but what they ended up doing once the game was settled is they were kind of just staying straight. And what they were doing is they were just double marking Stones and Rodri, denying that ball to get in the middle. And so it forced you to kind of go out to the wide areas and. Bernardo Silva and Grealish weren't really having fun on that side. They weren't really offering runs either, and so it almost seemed like, playing Bernardo and Grealish, it wasn't like what happened with Real Madrid. They didn't have nearly the same success, and that's maybe something that Inter could maybe play their wingbacks a little higher up because the threat to getting behind, it wasn't there this game. Wan-Bissaka locked down Grealish and Bernardo. I don't remember Bernardo Silva really doing much in the game either.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's true. I don't remember doing much, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, because like the halftime thought I had was United Shape was handling City. Fred was actually doing okay in defense, though he ended up having a couple costly mistakes. I think it's his foul that leads to the free kick that leads to the second goal. But it was almost like
Mhm.
Madrid gave them a head fake, where Pep was like, "Oh, I can play Bernardo Silva on the wing, and this is great because he's not going to lose the ball. I don't necessarily need to have someone to make runs in behind. I just need to have a third man to come in and create overloads." And United didn't really care. Just Bernardo Silva would get the ball in the wing, and there was no one. There was no kind of threat. If you marked Holland and you marked Gunnigan, I mean, if you marked Holland and you marked Kevin De Bruyne, there was really no one else to kind of get a threat or get a ball to. And so what they did is they just had to recycle possession, and it was that a lot. So something like you said, it's maybe something that Inter can look at because they're probably going to play a 3-5-2. They can maybe play a compact kind of midfield as well. I can't imagine they can chase the whole game, but maybe they can stay in a line and just because it seems the way City like to play is Stones and Rodri, or whoever is playing next to Rodri. That is the supply line. You need to cut that off because once they get the ball there, it's done. But it seemed the another thing that was interesting was the passing from City's back three. I thought was poor in a way we haven't always seen, which is another thing to maybe talk about. Like Akanji was almost like their Wan Bissaka. He's really good defensively, but when he was getting the ball, it wasn't really. He was either turning it over or he didn't really know what to do. Maybe he was going backwards. And so City had a lot of possession, but I think at halftime it was only 6 shots and 2 on target, and they ended up with like 11 shots, and United actually outshot them. And I want to
Hmm,
say in
interesting.
the first 5 minutes in the game, you wouldn't have thought that. You would have thought they were going to be blitzed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the way that game started. Ooh.
And so One thing I guess I should say, because I just kind of went around it with Bernardo Silva and Grealish, is on the flip side, if City do go on to have a lead in a game, they're cheat codes because what they do, they won't lose the ball. They won't, take players on unnecessarily. They won't necessarily be. They do a good job of staying at least keeping the width. But what they'll do is they'll keep possession and they'll either draw a foul or they'll just they just won't lose the ball. So if they can find a way to have the lead, that's when they'll shine. Otherwise, I kind of think Foden would maybe work out a little bit better as an option, or maybe Mahrez. Now the other option is both Grealish and Bernardo are very good at with work rate defensively. It's worth saying that as well. I think that's the reason why Pep actually has been playing Bernardo Silva in these bigger games because Bernardo Silva will track back. So
Mhm. Yeah, he will. Yeah,
it
yeah,
just kind of
absolutely.
it seems like that's going to be the lever you have to decide on. Either or. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You pick your poison, kind of thing.
I mean, what did you have any thoughts on how United set up? Like, did you agree with Ericsson kind of getting his camera over Bruno? Did you think Garnacho maybe should have been tried a little bit
Mm.
earlier? Um,
He could have been. Yeah, Garnacho could have been tried a little earlier. He seemed to provide a bit of a spark, and I guess the reason why Ericsson was in there was maybe because Ten Hag wanted him to play some like really good through balls and some creative through balls
yeah,
to break kind of the press and start counterattacks. I guess that's why he was in there. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think they set up bad at all, considering what they have. But I mean, as soon as that goal scored, I mean, it had to have been like, okay, now we got to change a little bit of our game plan, and we had to change it immediately. But after that, they kind of settled down. I mean, the handball, I don't know if that was really a handball.
yeah, and
That's
that's
I don't know. That's a tough call.
and that is
It's
how they
tough to
got in the
defend
game.
now, but
Yeah.
yeah, and they made the PK and they got back in the game, and after that though, I was kind of like you. I was like, I think City's just going to keep turning that screw, and they're going to find a way to win.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I can't really recall Man United actually having a touch in the City penalty area until like the 35th minute or so. Just and City
Mm,
just it felt like City were like a cat kind of playing with a mouse. That's a note I kind of put down here. And United do get it back into the game with a PK, and what happens is it's one of the few times when they are able to kind of keep the ball a little bit, and I think it's Shaw or Bruno that does a diagonal over to Wan-Bissaka, and what happens is it's one time Grealish had switched off, and I guess Grealish didn't really. I don't think Grealish thought Wan-Bissaka was threatening. To be honest, I don't think he respected him.
mhm.
And Wan-Bissaka gets
Yeah,
the ball, and I think he's trying to head it towards goal, and it just kind of deflects off Grealish is trying to win a header as well, and just because his hand's in the air when he jumps, the ball kind of hits it. And the only thing I'm thinking about is it almost seems like the game wants, or the people in charge of the game want defenders to just not be able to jump up at all without their hands being tied behind their back, which will make
yeah,
defending a lot harder. To be honest, you already see that. You see a lot of people actually play with their hands behind the back, but jumping is harder to do. Um, but you know,
yeah. It's a nightmare to defend in the box these
it,
days. I mean,
it's
what can you do?
it's weird because the word unnatural possession I don't think was in the vocabulary or in the rule book only until like a couple of years ago. It was always been intent. I don't
Mhm.
understand why they don't go back to intent because Grealish is clearly not
Yeah.
intending to do it. And if it's
No, he didn't know
unnatural,
anything about it, really.
is it unnatural when you jump in the air? So
Yeah, because you can't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I agree with you. I like that. I like the intent because clearly, like, he didn't mean to handball it. I don't think he knew anything about it, really.
because what happened yesterday in the West Ham game was, I think Bowen kind of had the ball, and it ended up just kind of because the guy's hand was so close, it ended up kind of flicking off his hand and going forward, and that moved the ball away from Bowen. So that one I
Yeah,
do think was maybe a little bit more clear cut. To be honest, it's still unlucky because
yeah,
when you happen with the vicinity of it, you can't really factor that in as well. But I just think we've talked about handball and offsides way too much on this podcast the entire
yeah,
year, and it's just kind of fitting how we kind of end a little bit talking about it. Maybe we'll talk about it for the Champions League. We'll
yeah.
see.
Hopefully not, but we'll see. Yeah,
I mean, the stats are City 450 passing, 79%. It's a lower percentage than what we normally see with City. It's worth saying is that as well because I feel like they struggled a little bit. Stones and Rodri did not have the success that they normally have, and Man United did do a good job of somewhat making the center backs struggle a little bit. Is worth saying that as well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
United 268 with 90% accuracy. Bad numbers for United, but the interesting stat here was this. Uh, Both were almost similar with long balls, trying 53. You don't normally think of that. So City have Holland, obviously, but also maybe Ortega likes going long more than Ederson. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Maybe.
36 of 53. Holland helps. Man United 19
Yeah.
of 52. De Gea, and I think
Ooh.
when you look at that's we'll get to maybe we'll start with Man United. To be honest, we've talked enough about Man City. Um, a lot of people have been going at De Gea for the saves. And, it's 2 they conceded 2 real goals. Maybe I think you can maybe go at him for the second goal. But the problem has been, and we've talked about this all year, to be honest, it has been his distribution. And it's not just his
Mm,
distribution, it's his decision making or his just he freaks out when he has the ball. And he kept
mm,
going long, and what he was doing is he just kept giving the ball away.
yeah.
Once you're when you don't have the ball at all, anyways, that's got to be really exhausting for your team to see. And there's a point in the first half, kind of late, or maybe it's in the second half, where you actually see Casemiro like yelling at De Gea, being like, "Here, I'll take the ball if you're not going to take it." And what De Gea does is
Mm,
he goes long, and this led to like Holland's best chance. Um, City like Wadri like wins the header, wins it to Holland, and then Holland takes Varane on, and he gets the shot off. He spins Varane and gets the shot off, and it was a close shot. But this just came from De Gea just kind of being he didn't want to try anything. It's not like City were necessarily pressing him to into trouble like we saw Brentford do earlier in the season. It was just De Gea just kind of
mm.
being like I'm just going to go long just to do it, and it didn't work. And if
Yeah.
and if you're going to do that, if the idea was to just go long the entire time, maybe try to get Rashford kind of free. Why not try Wanghorst then? That's
Mm.
the only thing I would say. Um,
Yeah, yeah. If you're gonna go long, he's the tallest guy on the team. He'd certainly help, you'd think.
and I feel like Garnacho came on. I think I even texted this. I thought he should have come on a little bit earlier, or maybe even started, because I thought he made him a little bit more threatening. It wasn't just Rashford they had to deal with; they had to deal with Garnacho. And once he came on, I thought United actually looked the most threatening they had. Garnacho had a curler, that almost kind of went in. At least it scared them. But it just and Garnacho wasn't just being a speedy guy. He was getting the ball in kind of tight spaces, and was doing well to keep it, making good decisions. And he was going at defenders and making Kyle Walker work a little bit. If nothing
Yeah.
else, I didn't think. I thought Rashford was struggling to get the ball. I thought Sancho was struggling, and Bruno kind of being played on the wing. He ended up actually moving a little bit more centrally anyways, and that basically Wan-Bissaka was kind of their winger, and Wan-Bissaka had a decent game, but you get to the point where Wan-Bissaka is limited, in that respect as well, so which kind of hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Might be another area that they might need to target for, the summer maybe, especially going in the Champions League this year.
Well, I mean, what is interesting is it sounds like the reporting seems that Mason Mount is about to join them, and I
Mhm.
kind of find it a puzzling signing. To be honest, I feel like the game kind of showcased a little bit where they're depleted. But um, you have Ericsson, you have Bruno. Is the idea to maybe kind of sideline Ericsson maybe next season? Is the idea to maybe try Bruno on the wing and maybe play Mount as a 10, or
Mm.
what? Maybe I don't think you're bringing Mount in for depth, because the reason why
Yeah.
he's leaving Chelsea is he's gonna demand a higher wage bill. You imagine someone getting more wages would be a starter. I would assume. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do. It could be like you said, it could be Fernandez on the right to make room for Mount. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting though.
Because the biggest problem I had here was the touches I saw with Ericsson. Uh, did I actually have it? I think he only had. I don't think he only touched the ball like 20 times. I had
Ooh.
the. There we go. He had 13 passes all game, and
Wow.
didn't win
Ooh.
a ground duel. But the problem is because you're playing him up top, and I understand the idea is to get him in that final third because he has the vision to pick a through ball to pick out Rashford, but he wasn't able to get on the ball enough. Yeah, I feel like he maybe could have played deeper, but the issue is Fred actually did a decent job defending. He did a decent job on Kevin De Bruyne, and could Eriksson have been able to copy that? Probably not as well. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah. I would agree. Probably not as well.
so if you're gonna just insert Mount in like an Eriksson role as the cam, you're still gonna have issues of how do you get that ball to him? How do you get that supply right? Maybe they were missing Lautaro Martinez or Lisandro Martinez. He was like their best passer in the season. It's worth kind of bringing that up as well. Um, but yeah,
Absolutely.
United were at least competitive. They did win a trophy, so it's not we don't necessarily have to go down on them. I mean, it's clear that they do have a ways to go. This game showed, De Gea gets a Golden Glove. It's probably that's the best way to kind of thank you for what you've done. You didn't have a bad season for us. We're going to remember you for that. But this game kind of showcased a little bit that it's not even Ederson, it's Ortega, it's City's backup that kind of outshined you a little bit. Um,
Yeah, true. That is true.
and then
Yeah, that's another interesting scenario this summer too. What are they going to do with De Gea?
And so, is this to move on to City? Is it? Do you think it's a testament to how great City are that maybe they didn't play their best game, and or maybe they beat a weak United team, or do you think it's just because it's kind of fun to do this? Is it maybe some cause for concern heading into this game? Versus Inter. They were on the. This is on the back of. No, they did win this game, but it's on the back of 3 games in a row. They haven't necessarily played their best. They lost to Brentford.
Yeah,
They've also been shuffling the squad a lot for these last few games with the title wrapped up. They're worth saying that as well.
yeah,
But it just momentum wise can kind of creep in, and this is kind of fun to kind of do. We like I like kind of doing a little narratives and being a little trolly. Say they lost to Brentford, drew Brighton. Didn't necessarily play great here. So I mean, what do you think?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the last couple games of the Premier League it was a tie and a loss, so yeah, they're slipping up a little bit there. But yeah, like you mentioned, they had already had things sewn up, so maybe that was in the player's mind. But I don't know. I mean, this is what they really want. Um, this is what they've been working for years. So
Yeah.
I think Pep's still gonna have them mentally in a good spot, and I mean, I think you're gonna see them come out and really, really want to win this game, and I think they're gonna win. They're just they got too much depth, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Like at times they still are playing really good, like Pep football, but it's not like we saw, in the Premier League maybe or against Real Madrid even. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe this is a good time for Inter to be playing them. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, the wild thing is when you look at the what they did versus Real Madrid. Now, the first game actually ended up being 1-1. It's that second game City kind of did the same thing with Leipzig. And I kind of looked back. City have had all their big wins at the Etihad. I don't
Mm.
really know why. I mean, this game won't be at the Etihad. I don't necessarily know if that'll factor in or not. I do remember there being kind of talks that City weren't having the best away record back in March. So, this isn't going to be necessarily at your home ground. Um, I did want to touch on a little bit on kind of some of these stats. So I mean, Kevin De Bruyne with 2 assists, 3 key passes. Kevin De Bruyne had another really good game. We imagine he's going to be kind of the key man. Um, you know, I think it'll be fitting that Gunnigan got his moment for the FA thing, and it'll probably be Kevin De Bruyne that shines a little bit more in this game. Stones, I was unreal. 88% accuracy. Again, he's not a defender anymore. He really is a midfielder. 3 for 3 duels as
Yeah,
well. And him and Rodri next together, if you can, the idea you have to find a way to stop them because once they get the ball, they don't lose it. So 94% pass accuracy, 3 key passes, 6 to 10 ground duels as well. And then defensively, I kind of went at them a little bit where I was like, I didn't think they were necessarily great, at least passing, but Kyle Walker was a one-man counter machine. And I feel like maybe the way to kind of get at them is you have to find a way to isolate Lukaku or Martinez or someone with Ruben Diaz. If Kyle Walker is next to Ruben Diaz, they're not going to be able to score at least on a counter or any kind of transition because this is probably the best
yeah.
football that Kyle Walker has played in a couple of seasons. He looks fitter.
And he's so
He's
fast
been able
too.
to
Yeah.
rest this season a little bit. Perhaps actually done a really good job of kind of saving his legs, and he's looked incredible these last few games.
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely. his speed is a game changer, and he's getting older, but he's still got that speed. Ooh.
And, we mentioned it was kind of just, just throw it out there as just kind of a way, how can we actually critique this City team? Sometimes you just have to kinda poke just to do it, and I do think it was maybe the Grealish and Silva kind of, wing pair, but, because just not to necessarily repeat myself, but, because Jeremy thinks that Pep has copied a lot of, what De Zerbi's done at Brighton, but
Mhm.
there is a significant difference that Brighton have more explosive attacking players on the wings, with Matoma, or as we've seen with Cissokho before it was Solly Marsh, where it seems the idea when they pass from the back, the idea is to get the ball to their attackers in space to exploit and they try to make a run. They try to attack spaces, down the wings a little bit, where it doesn't feel like City are nearly the same way. It seems like Holland is the outlet. Sometimes it'll maybe Holland is the decoy and De Bruyne will kind of be the outlet. Maybe Gundogan will kind of make a run
Mm.
here and there. He likes to save his legs. Grealish and Bernardo
Yeah.
Silva are never doing that. They're never making that run. And so they can be clever, they can be outlets, to give you numbers in midfield, in the center of the field. But they're not it's not a way for the City to advance the ball and to be threatening, once they break a press. They can't really be direct anymore, other than
Yeah.
Holland. So I feel like that is kind of again, that's the give and take.
Mm. Yeah, 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 you gotta choose kind of and, you know, pick what you're gonna do, and I don't know, but it's Pep always has these decisions to make too. Good decisions, though.
Yeah.
Good decisions.
And, speaking of the similarities, I did wanna get this out there, because a lot of people, it's not just Jeremy, a lot of people have tried to draw a little bit between, Brighton De Zerbi's Brighton and Pep City, and, so I do think this is kinda fitting to say. So there was a Q&A seminar recently, someone straight up asked, De Zerbi, how would you design a plan to beat his Brighton team? And
Mm,
so this maybe, is interesting. I do think there are similarities here, but we kinda mentioned one where they're a little different. But he basically said, "What I would do is I would find a way to limit three-man combinations in midfield. Look at duels, look at recoveries. If you can recover the ball quickly," and we saw Everton kinda do this and Villa kind of do this. They were able to break quickly, and, when you think of Man City, it's maybe kind of a weird way, because it's not really out wide. Another kind of thing to look at with Man City is, it's maybe not out wide where they're vulnerable, 'cause, Kyle Walker's and Akanji or, they have the legs to kind of, deal with that. But if you can get past Rodri, it almost feels like 'cause this is where the Vinny goal happened, in the first Real Madrid game, and it's where the
mm,
Enciso goal happened from Brighton, where someone was able to, get Kyle Walker out of the picture and they were able to get behind Rodri, and they were able to kind of take Diaz, or at least kind of isolate him, scare him, and they were able to take a shot off, from that area and beat Ederson. And it feels like Lautaro Martinez can get in that area and has the ability to try that shot. So that would maybe be something I would try to see.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that could work.
let's see, and to kind of we'll kind of quick get started with the quick preview. We'll get started with, I guess, Enter first. We just talked about City. So their last 5 games in the league, so 4-2 over Swallow. They did lose to Napoli, 3-1. That was a pretty bad game for them, which I'll get to, because there was a red card in there, but they were just thoroughly outplayed. They did beat Fiorentina, which we just saw. They played West Ham decently, I guess, in the final 2-1. Um, they beat Atalanta 3-2. Lukaku scored a goal in like 30 seconds in that game, which was interesting because I feel like this is maybe a goal that they could try to create. Because what they did is Lukaku has gotten really good at actually with his back to goal, and he's gotten actually his touch when getting a pass is almost I keep bringing up Brighton. It's something that Ferguson kind of does for Brighton. He has the defender on his shoulder. He does a good job to kind of get the defender to get close. And he look what I saw Lukaku do is quickly touch the ball to Lautaro Martinez, spun around the defender, got behind him, and it was kind of a one-on-one breakaway. So if Diaz kind of gets caught, I feel like Lukaku could beat Diaz in a sprint. Um, and then they beat Torino last weekend with a really good goal from Brozovic. And then in the knockout, 1-0 aggregate over Porto, 5-3 aggregate over Benfica, and then a 3-0 aggregate over Milan. Um, So, uh, I mean, what do you have any thoughts on Inter? Do you give them a puncher's chance, as they say?
Man, I give them a chance. I think it's gonna be they're gonna try to make it a tough game. And they're gonna try to be really hard to beat defensively and compact. But yeah, I think it'll be a good game. But I still just City's too good.
Yeah.
I mean, Inter isn't Real Madrid, and City just like plowed Real Madrid in the two legs. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they'll set up well, and they'll be tough to beat defensively. Maybe they can grab a goal on the counter or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think City's going to win, and I don't think it's going to be easy. It's gonna be a tough game for City to score. They're gonna maybe get frustrated trying to break them down. But yeah, I think City ultimately win maybe by like a goal,
hmm
maybe like 2-1 or 1-0, something like that. But
I mean, I put down positives and negatives. So, I mean, the positive for Inter, I think they do have a pretty good midfield three, in Barella, Brozovic, and Chalanago. Sometimes
mm,
Brozovic hasn't actually started, but he did start on the weekend. I think Brozovic is probably their best passer. So I think he would need to start. Barella is kind of their do it all everything midfielder. I think he was even midfielder of the Serie A. I think he was awarded that. And I think
mm,
Inter were not actually that good or impressive versus AC Milan. Dzeko played instead of Lukaku, and Brozovic didn't actually start. It was someone else. So
mm,
I would look at maybe that because Brozovic can kind of be that deep lying kind of guy that can dictate play a little bit like Jorginho does sometimes. But
mm.
he's got a little bit more legs to him. So I would maybe try to see that. It seems like Inter can maybe do a decent job of keeping the ball a little bit. I mean, City is going to have the majority of the possession, you would imagine. Um,
Yeah,
I do think
definitely.
the Lautaro Martinez and Lukaku pairing worked well together, and we saw that with when Conte was coaching them a couple years ago. And it's been weird how Dzeko has kind of been the main guy starting in most of these Champions League games, and Lukaku has kind of been the guy starting in the in the league games. But I feel like if for Inter to really have a chance, I feel like Lukaku is going to have to start. I feel like you're going to have to need someone with his kind of legs to at least make that City back line fear a little bit. Otherwise, City's back line is going to be all the way on Inter's kind of halfway line, and Inter not going
Yeah.
to be able to get out. Um, so I would probably look.
Lukaku's got good. He's got good Champions League stats for the little minutes that he's played. He's got 3 goals and an assist, and he's only played 144 Champions League minutes. So yeah, that's not bad. He's starting to get heated up a little bit. Xhako's their like Champions League leading goal scorer with only 4,
Mhm.
and compared to Haaland has 12 in the Champions League. So it's gonna be tough. We'll see, but
And I feel
ooh,
like
you can't just. It's hard to shut down City for 90 minutes.
Well, one thing United did not do is they did not bother pressing City's back line, which was interesting. That's not normally what we see. And it's not like they were necessarily sitting back. They're playing, I guess, what you would call a mid block. So
Mm,
their idea was to deny Stones and Rodri the ball as much as possible. So I'd be interested to see that because Inter are probably going to play with a front two, so you're not going to be able to press City's back three. You'll be outnumbered every single time. Maybe you can have Dumfries be the third presser, but I still that would be risky. I feel like Dumfries can maybe take more risk because you don't imagine Grealish is going to be a guy that's really going to try to make a run behind. Um, but
yeah,
maybe a negative
yeah, that's true.
is if there's a team that's similar to City in the Serie A, it's probably Napoli. Because I feel like Osimhen maybe comparable to Holland. Valvasquelia is maybe comparable to Grealish a little bit. Not necessarily the same player, but comparable. The way that Napoli presses, wins the ball back. Napoli's good in possession as well, and it was a beatdown. Napoli won that game 3-1, 22 shots versus 6, and Napoli had 92%
Ooh,
pass accuracy. Um, 70-ish percent of the ball. There was a red card in the second half that helped a little bit, but Napoli were dominating before the red card. So that is the one thing that I'm kind of scared about is maybe seeing that
mm.
again. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't the best year in Serie A for Inter as well. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. They do have some games where they just aren't competitive at all.
and maybe a couple X factors I want to kind of mention, and then we can maybe close up shop is uh, Dumfries. We kind of mentioned him a little bit for maybe being a presser. We saw how good he can be versus the U.S. In Qatar. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember him.
yeah,
Um, he
yep.
was he
Oh
was
yeah.
responsible for a lot of their goals. Uh, At least, yeah, for versus us. But he was maybe Inter's worst player, versus AC Milan in the semifinals. Just kept giving the ball away. Had a really had a heavy touch. If he does that for City, he's
Hmm.
dead. Uh,
Yeah.
but he, in my opinion, if because the way Grealish was playing Wan-Bissaka, if Dumfries can get in the positions Wan-Bissaka was getting, I imagine Dumfries would be better at picking someone out. So that would maybe be the spot I would look at. If you can find a way
Mm,
that
okay.
Akanji is maybe kind of trying to defend, Lukaku or someone, Akanji's not going to be out on the wing. It's going to be Grealish,
Yeah.
supposedly. That would be what I would look at. I'll say that. Another guy to
Yeah,
touch
that's
on
interesting. Yeah.
is Bastoni. Bastoni is a center back, and when you watch if he I think what is he like 66? He's a weird number, maybe 99. You'll recognize him
Mm.
when you see him because he's a center back and he'll be in any position on the field. He'll be a striker, he'll be the winger, midfielder. He just kind of roams. He has a free role, and he can cause marking issues. He can cause overload issues, and that Gosens and Bastoni overlap could cause City issues as well. So that'll be something I'll be seeing as well. Um,
Yeah, and will Pep counter that, like, if he goes up, there's gonna be some space in behind to counter.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be a fun tactical chess match, I think. I think it at the very least.
because I'm trying to I'm trying to convince myself that this isn't going to be a City winning easily. I am struggling a little bit, but I'm trying to think of it because I feel like, to be honest, Inter will be overmatched in every position. Another
Yeah,
thing I put
yeah,
down was
absolutely. Top to bottom bench, yeah.
Canaloglu, finding some inspiration, being back in Turkey. He's Turkish. They'll be in Istanbul. That is the best I can think of.
Yeah, 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 that's right.
I mean, Inter, I think will be able to play their wing backs high up with Gosens and Dumfries. Both of them have at least Gosens. Gosens has really good delivery, and Dumfries is a decent attacker. It's just I worry
Mhm.
when when he's asked to uh, make
Defend.
necessarily when he well, there we go. Not necessarily the worst defender when he has to beat a press when someone's pressing him, and he's kind of
Oh, when he
tight.
has to pass, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If he can get free and has, the ability to kinda be an attacker, I think he can shine a little bit, and we'll see how Pep does that if he does play Grealish and Bernardo Silva. Uh,
Mm.
and so, that is probably all I can really think about. With Man City, I don't know. You think we've said it all, or what do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we touched on just about everything. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like you. I'm trying to convince myself that Inter have a chance. I think they do. I think just being an Italian club, they know how to play defensive soccer, you would think. But yeah, I mean, if anyone given a couple weeks to come up with a game plan to beat a compact team, if anyone can do it, it's Pep. I just feel like he's gonna have a game plan that's just gonna rip Inter to shreds. And if City grab an early goal again, I think it could be, Inter's game plan is kind of ruined. And
Yeah,
what's their plan B?
because
Do they have a plan B? Can they?
if they have to
They can't
press
score with City.
if they have to press and it becomes an open game, I really fear about, Darmian and, their other, Acerbi, I think. Um,
Mm.
I don't think they could handle Holland in an open game.
Yeah,
A
yeah, yeah. So they have to keep it tight as long as possible, and
and if
then
you
they'll have a chance. But if they
and
can do that.
if you press, you can only press for so long. The legs will get tired. The midfield will get tired. That would be when the spaces will be there. That would be when De Bruyne is
Mhm.
able to get a little bit more on the ball. That would be the
And
time.
and De Bruyne Silva, it's gonna
Yeah.
be, yeah. They're gonna have their hands full because you can't just shut down De Bruyne because then Silva or Gundogan will pop up. So yeah, it's gonna be hard.
Because I mean, one final thought I kind of had was this is maybe something similar that Pep saw Tuchel line up with Chelsea. It's probably going to be a similar formation, and the only difference here is Inter don't have Rudiger, Inter don't have an informed Conte. Brozovic is a different player. Pep has a striker now, and he's probably going to have a healthy Kevin De Bruyne. We imagine when De Bruyne was only able to go 60 minutes versus Chelsea a couple of years back. And this is
Mm.
why Pep's brought Holland to his to Man City. This is he I think he's figured maybe playing playing with false nines it was fine for him to do in the league. That's a way to kind of win a league over the course of an entire season. But in these moments, you need a striker, you need a finisher, and he's gone out and gotten the best one you can get on the market, and we'll see if this shows up, and this is when all of that comes due. We imagine it will, but we'll have to see. Um,
Yeah, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Because I think my prediction would probably be I'll be cheeky. I'll do 1-1, and then Man City wins 3-1 in extra time.
Ooh, I like
So
that. Yeah, I'm
maybe
gonna go with City winning 2-1.
so if you're a City fan, at least you have to suffer a little bit for it to at least go to extra time. We'll we'll
Yeah, and if
see.
that happens, then all 3, Europe finals have been pretty close games.
Yesterday almost went to extra time as well. Yeah, that's what's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
PKs for Roma.
yeah, good call. And
Yeah, that'd be
so
fun. It'd be exciting. I hope it's a close game, I really do.
And so that's probably it. I mean, the only thing I can think of, for Pep is does Pep try to do something that makes everyone go, "What are you doing?" Pre match, or does he just kind of stick with what's got him there? Does he
Yeah.
does he try? Does he go back to a back four? Does he think no? There's no reason to risk it. We'll play Stones as an actual center back. We won't have to do this goofy stuff, or does he kind of stick with the kind of a three back with Stones kind of in midfield and trust that Bernardo and Grealish can handle the wings. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a tactical chess match. That's gonna be fun to watch. Even if maybe the game might end up being ugly. Hopefully not, but at the very least, it's gonna be a nice manager tactical kind of chess match to look out for, at least at the very least.
And Ake, it looks healthy again. He was able to come on a little bit towards the end. Do you stick with Akanji at left back, or do you actually insert Ake back in there? That would maybe be
Come on,
something to
yeah,
see. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be
Or
tough. Yeah,
because Aki, I feel like, or Kanji, just we've praised him a little bit, but I feel like he is limited when the ball's at his feet, and so if you're Inter, you want Akanji to have as many touches, in my opinion, as possible, because I feel like he won't make the right decisions versus like a
mm,
Laporte or maybe even an Ake. We'll see if that
yeah,
maybe kind of shows up. Again, I'm just trying to think of ways to stop eh, Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan, Silva, and Holland kind of taking this game over. Because it feels you do fear if they get one, it could be a barrage. If they get
yeah.
if they get one early, it could be a barrage. So we'll see.
The only thing they could do probably to stop all 3 of those players is, I don't know, like, pop the tires on the team bus and stop the bus from even getting to the stadium.
Well,
Because
there
you
we go.
can't stop all 3. You might
Well,
be able to shut down 2, but you can't shut down 3. It's just too hard.
someone I think Jeremy's like told me this. There is a curse out there that anyone that hasn't
Mm.
played with a Croatian player hasn't won.
Ah,
So like
interesting.
Liverpool had like Lovren. Apparently it goes back a little bit, and
Huh,
they have
that's
Enter
interesting.
has Brozovic, and City don't. Maybe that's why they're City,
Yeah.
City is apparently linked to Kovacic. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But
Just to have him on the bench for Champions League,
probably means nothing. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
that is interesting. Yeah, that's a nice little factoid right there.
So there we go. We try to fit it all in. I don't know. I think we got through it. Rex, what do you got
Yeah,
any
pretty fun.
final thoughts?
No, just looking forward to the game.
Mhm.
Like we said, we hope it's a good game because we could see it getting bad for Inter. Hopefully, it's not, and hopefully Inter, play a little bit of attractive football. They're gonna have to sit back a bunch, but maybe like on the counter, they can kind of play attractive football. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping it's gonna be a good game. The other 2 European finals have been, so hopefully this one will be entertaining too.
It's weirdly, I don't want to necessarily make a comparison to like college football, but it feels like Serie A has a lot on the line here. To
Mm,
not necessarily win this, but at least to be competitive.
yeah,
they did do a good job to make it to three finals.
yeah,
Yesterday was competitive, but West Ham's also like the 15th best team in England.
right, yeah,
If
yeah,
Inter can at least make people think a little bit, that'll be good for them. They don't necessarily have to win, but you don't want them to get embarrassed. So
right, right.
we'll see how this works out. I mean, Inter
Yeah,
do have a ton of international like quality players. So
they do. Yeah, they're stacked too, but just not stacked as City.
we'll see. We'll see how it works, and that'll probably be it. That is it for our little preview show. We'll be back here to talk about the final, be a little bit more in depth, and then after that, U.S. kind of kicks off. We have a Gold Cup coming up, and so there've been some news with our roster as well. We might see I think Balogun was called up,
Yeah, he was.
given a shirt. So I think given the
That's
number
right.
9. So maybe we'll actually see him a little earlier than we thought. So that's what we have to look up for the summer. And Nations League has their semifinals. So
That's right. Yeah,
soccer year
interesting.
round apparently. I don't know. Uh,
Yeah, and Women's World Cup too, so
Good call. Yeah, I think it starts sometime in July. I think maybe early
yeah.
July. Yeah,
I think we're
and
40 days out, I think.
so hopefully that'll all work out. And I guess for everyone in the U.S., kind of stay safe with that air quality. Kind of mentioning up. I'm trying to imagine if like because we're hosting the World Cup in a couple years. What would we do if like
Mhm.
something like that was happening happening at that time? So something
Yeah,
to always
true.
kind of have on the back of our minds. Things just only seem to get worse, unfortunately. If it's not
Uh,
a terrible hurricane, it's this. I don't know. Anyways,
yeah.
so thank you for joining, and for us two at the Reserve Squad, you stay squatty
Hey, Squatty.
and stop recording.